2.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Your Manchester. Now we've got a marvellous show lined up for you guys today. We'll be speaking to Joe Lathwood from the Lowry. We'll also be talking to Joe Houston from Hope Mill Theatre, and then we'll be going on a walk with Mark.
There we go. Where am I at? Right, solo me. Well, everybody, this is a wonderful, wonderful theatre that we're about to introduce one of the owners of today, and he is sensational, and he's got so many good causes behind him, not to mention a plethora of wonderful shows. So please welcome the lovely, lovely Mr. Joseph. How are you doing, Mr. Joseph?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. How is everything going over at Hope Mill?
Yeah, I think last year was really challenging. And I think that towards the end of last year, there was a lot of exhaustion. And certainly coming into this year, we feel a little bit more re-energized in some respects, which is a nice feeling. But certainly, I think everyone in the theatre industry at the moment knows that challenges are still there. They've not gone away. But I think that sort of certainly for us to be able to have some time off over the festive period and then come back New Year a little bit refreshed and going, okay, where are we? What do we need to do? And we've got so many exciting things coming up that we need to allow ourselves to be excited about.
I think as audiences that come to your shows, we're always excited because you have got in what can be only described as a medium-sized space that you managed to turn into all kinds of different things, and nobody ever knows what they're going to walk into, and it's just a fascinating space. But what challenges have you been facing then recently?
Coming out of COVID, I think that everyone thought, oh, everything's back to normal, we've opened up. And I think that we sort of call it, I guess, a COVID hangover. Obviously, we came out of that, and the theatre industry had changed so much. And not in a great way across some great things obviously came out of COVID for the theatre sector, but I think that we came into a cost of living crisis. Audience patterns had changed. Everything was costing more, and certainly for a venue like us, that have our operations are, as you say, certainly our productions are large scale, big productions, and I think that for a space like us, everything doubled, production costs, set costs, tires, wages. And then we sort of found ourselves in a place where we were navigating a completely different landscape that we weren't prepared for. And we were coming out of COVID where all of our reserves had gone and been used up because, there was only so much funding around and we'd forced to close so much. So last year for us was a really scary time of going, we found ourselves in a position where we felt like it wasn't feasible anymore to be able to keep the venue going. And we had so many exciting productions that were ending the year, but we had such a challenging start to the year that it was how can we get to that point, safely and securely. We felt like at times there was going to have to be really difficult decisions to be made. And so we did go out there with the Hope for the Future fundraising campaign that really, at the time, we weren't able to be really honest about our position because we still were navigating it and we didn't know what it meant. And we were going out to key stakeholders to see if there was any support there. But unfortunately, because a lot of the theatre industry is in the same position, a lot of organizations are all going for the same pot of money with regards to, trusts and foundations and local authority funding. Everyone's going for that money, which makes it then very competitive. And although we do great stuff here at Hope Mill, not just shows, but a lot of amazing outreach, you're in a big pile of people that are looking for the same kind of money. So we weren't always getting that funding that we were applying for, which then put us in a position of, having to launch the public campaign, but not knowing whether any of that would come through. And then coming into this year, we realized that it was looking like the public campaign was the only thing that was going to really keep us going.
So tell us about this public campaign then. How much have you managed to raise so far, and how much do you hope to raise?
So we've raised so far, it's Hope for the Future fundraising campaign, and it's to continue for us to keep operating, to keep bringing you brilliant, amazing productions, but also to support our incredible outreach program. A lot of people don't know that Hope Mill have a theatre school that we've been running for 3 years. It has over 70 children that take part in it from the local area of Mills Platting and across Greater Manchester. And they come every Saturday and they train in acting, singing and dance. And we make sure that 50% of those spaces are free to children that wouldn't otherwise be able to access it. We have a community choir and a community orchestra. We do a lot of incredible work in our local area that isn't just about the productions and the musicals, but of course that all feeds together and supports the work that we do with young people particularly. So Hope for the Future is set up to be able for us to continue all of that incredible work. And we've raised so far, which is incredible, just over £65,000, but we are looking to raise £70,000, and that's the total that we were looking for, that was sort of plugging a funding gap that we had in this year.
It's amazing. But I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. You have got the wonderful, wonderful Gypsy. I mean, it must feel so special to you knowing that you have this I want to say little black book of people that you can call upon in times of need, that can come and put these wonderful and massive, and that's the word I want to constantly use when I'm in conversation with you, massive shows into production. Tell us all about Gypsy, the concert.
You're right. We've been so fortunate to work with incredible people in the short space of time that Hope Mill has been going only 8 years, and everybody, their heart is in Hope Mill, and that's what's amazing, because we've created something that people feel invested in. So you're absolutely right. With the fundraising concert last year, it was going, how can we, secure the kind of funding through other avenues that we need if we're not getting it through, trusts and foundations or local authority. For us, it was going, what do we do best? We put shows on. So we're going to put on a massive show at the Opera House in Manchester on the 25th, Sunday, the 25th of Feb. It's one night only, so there's only one chance to come and watch it. But we've managed to assemble this incredible cast led by Jodie Prenger as Rose. And it's going to be so thrilling, so exciting, with a live 21-piece orchestra. It's going to be the full show, full dance routines, all of the scenes, the full story, all the musical numbers. And it's an opportunity for us to sort of have a Hope Mill show on that massive stage at the Opera House, but have all of these incredible supportive people involved in making it happen. And hopefully the funds that we raise from that will then go back into to support all the work we do here at Hope Mill.
So today we got the email about the rest of the cast. Are we allowed to announce the rest of the cast today? Because we've been waiting with tenterhooks for this. So we've got Davina De Campo. We've got the gorgeous Harriet Thorpe. We've got Jodie Prenger, like you say. We've got, go on, name them. What are you kind of thinking of? They're in it.
Tom Lister's playing Herbie. We've got the wonderful Grace Black, who's our Cinderella in our production of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, who's playing Louise. May Tether is going to be playing June. Angela Lonsdale, who's been a big supporter of Hope Mill, is playing Miss Cratchit. And Peter Gunn from Coronation Street is going to be playing Jodie, Rosie's dad. And we have students from Lane Theatre Arts going to be making up all of our Hollywood Blondes and our Farm Boys, and from Stage Box Theatre Academy that are going to play our young people. So, it's going to be really exciting. And like I say, all of those people are so invested in Hope Mill and our story, and they want to see us thrive like so many people do. So, for them to all rally together, I think it's going to be a highlight of the Manchester theatre calendar for sure.
Definitely. One of the other highlights that's coming to the Hope Mill is, of course, The Gap with our very lovely Denise Welsh and Matthew Kelly. I mean, to get people like this is just fantastic, isn't it?
again, you know, just people like Denise have been a massive
I don't know where that went.
since the day we opened, and Matthew as well. You know, he's just can't wait to be here. Can't wait to be at Hope Mill. It's a brilliant new play by Jim Cartwright. Two of them together are absolutely electric. They are hilarious. Just even being in the rehearsal room, in the room, it's one of those shows. Again, it's only running for 5 weeks though, and it's already had a lot. We've already got a lot of sellout performances in the first 2 weeks. So I do genuinely urge people to make sure they get a ticket, because I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a sellout. I'm hoping it's going to be a sellout, but I think it is. And I just think that seeing those two together is going to be something again really special.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would say that a smaller theatre like yourself doesn't necessarily get the big names. But I mean, they are, everybody that comes in there, they're not just taking it, you know, oh, we're helping Joan Willard. They take their craft seriously, and they are delivering A-star performance, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing, you know, like all of the amazing, incredible star performers that we have at Hope Mill, you know, they're coming because they also are passionate about the work. You know, Denise approached us about the gap because she's always had a close relationship with Jim. And she said, look, I want to get back on stage. I've not been back on stage in a play in a long time. But if I'm going to do it, I want to do it where I feel supported, safe, secure, with a team that I know are great. And she said, I want to do it with you guys, you know. So that for us, you know, is amazing, because she trusts us, and just like we trust her.
Just before we let you go, because I know you're a very, very busy man, but people should come to Hope Mill over perhaps some of the other theatres. For what reason? What would you say is the main selling point of Hope Mill, and what's its desire?
Because I'm such a nice person, I would say that we should definitely be supporting all theatre. However, what can we offer at Hope Mill? We are a theatre that's been built with heart and soul, and you feel that the minute you walk through the door. You're getting a completely unique theatre experience that I can say you probably won't get anywhere else in Manchester. And you're getting to see really, really world-class work, you know, musicals, plays, even the stuff that we don't produce, but the theatre companies that we host throughout the year. The shows that we have here are one of a kind. And I think that when you come here, people do fall in love with the overall experience of Hope Mill, and the heart that we've put into it, I think, radiates through. So I think that, you know, come along to Hope Mill and, you know, hopefully you'll have a really special evening.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there. It is an experience. It's almost immersive. Every show is almost immersive because of its smallness, which is just, that's not even a word, but I'm going to use it. Smallness.
Man, you are. It's the new word.
Smallness, yeah, definitely. For now, though, Joe, thank you so much, and we will see you, well, for everything that you've got going on. We'll be there.
Thanks.
Everybody get behind the one and the only Hope Mill. It is sensational. It's one of the venues that you definitely, if you haven't already, need to attend.
Hello, and welcome to this week's walk. We've come to the borough of Oldham, and we're actually in a place called Daisy Nook, which is just near Failsworth. Now, you can probably hear the noise. You can see in the background the M60, and that's just between the Oldham and Ashton-under-Lyne turnoff. And in fact, the M60 runs through this area, Daisy Nook. You might remember the character of Swampy. Yes, he protested at a lot of building work through country areas, and probably influenced the character of Spider in Coronation Street. Well, Swampy dug in here and climbed the trees here to try and stop the M60 going through, but unfortunately he was unsuccessful, so you can see that behind me. Daisy Nook itself is a bit of an unusual place because the name is a pure fiction. Let's go on our little walk and hear the tale. So this area was known for its horticulture. Up at the top of the road, in fact, the motorway goes through there, is an area called Ashton Moss. And the clue is in the name. It was sort of peat ground and very good for growing. In fact, one of the growers there was a man called Bill Sowerbutts. His family had grown vegetables up there, and they had greengrocer stalls in markets around the area, Glossop to Ashton to Oldham. And he became so well known that when the government launched their campaign during the Second World War for everyone to grow vegetables, the BBC was encouraged to host a weekly radio programme giving gardening advice called How Does Your Garden Grow? It eventually became what is today Gardener's Question Time. Well, they asked Bill Sowerbutts if he would go on as a panellist. He said he couldn't possibly go to London because he had to get up early to get the veg up to sell on the market. So they brought the show here. And the first episode of How Does Your Garden Grow was broadcast from the Broad Oak pub just up the road, so that Bill could be a panellist and get the veg up for market. The main road from here up into Ashton is called Newmarket Road, representing the fact that many gardens and greenhouses here supplied fruit and veg for the general market. Today, it's the home of a garden centre called Daisy Nook. But as I said before, Daisy Nook and that name didn't exist before the 1860s. In fact, this area was called Waterhouses. There's another village up at the top of the hill called Woodhouses, so we have the clue. And down here in the valley is the River Medlock. Now, in the 1860s, a local man called Ben Brierley wrote a book called A Day Out in Daisy Nook. It was kind of harking back to a quieter, gentler age before industrialization. The book was very popular indeed, and when it was published also here but in America, a local artist, Charles Potter, was asked to do some drawings for it. So he said to Ben Brierley, "Where is this place, Daisy Nook?" He said, "Well, I invented it, but it's sort of based on waterhouses." So Charles Potter came down here to the village, copied many of the buildings. The book came out. It was so successful, so many people wanted to visit the setting that they started to come here. But of course, it wasn't called Daisy Nook. The buildings were not under the names that were in the book. So the villagers threw the towel in, renamed Waterhouses Daisy Nook, renamed many of the properties after places in the book, and it became a huge tourist area. In fact, where I am stood, more or less, there was even a huge bandstand, so you could come and do an awful lot of things here. There was a hunt, there was bicycling, there was water activities with boats on a lake at the top of the hill, and band contests, and you could come and dance the night away, with plenty of drink, of course, as well. The oldest building still standing in Daisy Nook is just behind me. It's our private residence, and that is Medlock Hall, though it used to be called Waterhouse Hall, reflecting the name of the local landowners. And parts of it date back to 1400. In fact, the walls were made of wattle and daub, some still are. And they were very easy to break in. You just literally had to smash your fists through them. That's where we get the phrase breaking and entering from. But along the main road here were more houses than stand today. That's because of a road widening scheme in the 1930s. And the road and the area was dotted with little cafes. There was a photographer's studio. There were even pet monkeys and a little sort of menagerie, little zoo. And it really was the place to come. One of the things that still exists today is the annual fair, which takes place every Easter. And it's still run by the Silcock family, who have run it for over 100 years. And that was timed really because you had religious holiday Easter, so you'd have Good Friday off. And with the coming of the trains and with a half-day holiday on a Saturday, which came in sort of early Victorian period, this was the place to come for a marvellous day out in the country. The most famous resident of Daisy Nook was Cathy Staff, who played Nora Batty in Last of the Summer Wine, and she used to live just through the trees behind me in a place called Boodlefold Farm. Today it's well worth a visit. It's just 5 minutes away from the M60 and from the main Oldham and Ashton roads, and there is a country park which is owned by the National Trust, which has a cafe and various walks, and the remains of a large hall, Rivers Vale Hall, that stood there for many years. There's also the garden centre and lots of places for a good walk with the dog. And you can still walk around that lake I told you about, where you could boat in Victorian days, and that's called Crime Lake. Not named after a crime, but the little village that stood there, which was destroyed when they put the canal through, the Fairbottom Canal. That was called Chime, Chrime. Now, there is a little bit of a criminal past as well, because this used to be the way that people would come with the cloth that they'd made up at home in sort of Saddleworth and Oldham on their looms at home, and they would go into Manchester to sell it. And this was about halfway point on their journey, by foot, of course. And so they would put up overnight here in the valley. Unfortunately, it became a place where highwaymen and cutthroat robbers would come because they knew that they would have the cloth on the way into Manchester, the money on the way back. So there we are, a little bit about Daisy Nook. It used to be called Waterhouses. See you next time.
You literally couldn't make this up, everybody. Joining us now, Joe Lathwood. How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very well, thank you. Currently at the Lowry in a little box.
So in a little box?
Well, I'm in a little box so I can talk to you clearly, because where I'm working in the gallery is a bit more loud and there's machines and, drills and all that sort of stuff. So
and tell everybody what you work.
So it's an exhibition, a contemporary art exhibition called Making Up, which is a bit unusual, is that we're building the artwork in front of the audience. So normally, obviously, you come to a gallery and you come and see things on walls, where there's one gallery that's got some drawings and some artworks on the wall, and then the other gallery is this like production space where we're building a big boardwalk. The public will then be able to walk on once we've finished building it, which is Saturday. So,
and what is the inspiration behind this installation then?
It's like sort of three things kind of coming together, if you like. So I'm a sculptor and I always work in a site responsive way. So I did a lot of research about Salford docks and kind of how like Greater Manchester has been influenced and changed by the Industrial Revolution, and basically decided to build a dead end. Bit of a weird thing to build maybe, but like the idea that it's a journey, but it's a journey that turns you around. So the boardwalk is going to be it's only 30 centimeters off the floor, but you walk along it and then there's a big turning circle that you can stand on. It goes at the same speed as a revolving door, and then you'll move around the exhibition space. So journeys and pathways are a big part of my art practice, and it links to like emotive ideas about journeys. So around the gallery, we've also written we are all in a cycle, because I wanted to sort of link to our own, more personal ideas of our own life cycle and what progression is, and those sort of things. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. But I suppose what I want to really ask is, what are you hoping people will feel when they get into the space, or perhaps to see you creating this piece?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I really love making things, and I have always struggled with what happens when you make really big artworks, like big installations. This is all made out of recycled timber, this structure, and then what happens to it afterwards. So this particular exhibition, how we've kind of curated it and programmed it, is that all of that has been considered in the exhibition from the start. So we've collected all these recycled materials from the Lowry, because obviously there's a massive theatre here and they get loads of pallets of wood coming in for different shows. I've brought some timber up from where I work down in Bristol, and then we've kind of brought all these materials together, and then they've all come together to make an object, and then they'll all disperse again, and they're going to disperse in the form of boxes, because boxes are linked to Salford quays because of, you ready for this great word, containerization, which is like why which is like why Salford quays is no longer a working dock, because basically we got way better at packaging things. So as an audience, I'd love them to come and grab a box. That's going to be how the exhibition ends, if that makes sense. I'd love people to come and like have a journey, a mini journey in this show. And I guess I'm trying to provide a space for people to kind of contemplate where they are within their own journeys and what's important in life. That's the overall thing. It's like, what is progression? What are our goals? What makes you happy? Are you doing those things? Like, having a bit of a reassess of this kind of mantra that we live in, which is like onwards and upwards and climbing the ladder and progression. So I guess I'm trying to provide a space that gives an alternative to that.
It sounds fantastic. How did all this begin for you? I mean, how did you get involved with this particular project? I suppose even deeper than that, how did you get involved within art itself?
Yeah, okay. So I mean, I was really lucky at school. You know, like school really probably was a good starting point, that I was lucky enough to get taught art education, which is, you know, difficult now in the current society that we live in, because a lot of that's getting cut. And I just found it a very good way of being able to express myself through making things. And then I carried on to go to university, and I did a BA in sculpture. And that was really like, it wasn't necessarily obvious to me before that that's what I was going to do, but I've always enjoyed drawing and being creative, and then just followed that pathway. So I don't want to pretend that that's like an easy thing to do, because the reality is like, I've done 101 other jobs. Like, I've been a postie, I've been a bar person, you know, like all the other things that you have to do to pay your rent. But I guess now I've been doing it for such a long time that I can just spend more and more time focusing on the art thing, which is an amazing place to be in. And then how I got involved in the Lowry is a really great curator here called Zoe Watson, who's in charge of the contemporary art exhibitions, invited me to do a show. So, and that was about 1.5 years ago. So the show sort of starts with conversations, coming to visit the space, doing that research around Salford Docks and Greater Manchester, and kind of seeing what's interesting to respond to. So yeah, that's how it sort of started.
That's fantastic. So where can people catch this exhibition? How long is it on for? And does it cost anything to come and see it?
Oh yeah, good question. So it's totally free. Everyone is super welcome. It's at the Lowry. It's on now. I am in the gallery or in the workshop, which is, we've CCTV'd up to like, so people can see all of the production process. So if I'm not physically in the gallery, I'm in a workshop, which you can watch on a video screen in the gallery of things being built. And I'm here until Saturday. Saturday is the big opening of the pathway, and people can walk on it. So you can come before Saturday and see the pathway being finished, or come on Saturday or after Saturday and walk on the pathway. And then on the 20th of Feb, I start taking it all down, making it into boxes. And then that runs until the 3rd of March. So really, any time between now and the 3rd of March, come visit. It's free at the Lowry.
It sounds so very, very clever and just arty, which I love. So keep up the good work. For now, though, Joe, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you.
Well, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. But make sure to hit that like button, follow us on all our socials, subscribe to the accounts, and join us next week at 8 p.m. on Your Manchester.